Hello, Meoni here, and today I want to go over the latest live letter, which was live streamed on Twitch, Nico, and YouTube. This is going to be in bite-sized format, as I usually do for these things. There will be spoilers for current and future versions of the game, including storyline, but very little in the way of plot or context, but are references to certain characters that you may or may not know if they are dead or not. So continue at your own caution. I took screen caps of various slides in the live letter, so bear in mind these were capped as I watched the live letter. Towards the end of the video, unfortunately, a couple of the slides got corrupted, but I managed to salvage some of it, but it's still really understandable, and you'll be listening to me anyway. This is the first of a two-part live letter. The second live letter will be at a later date, so this is all the news we have today. So firstly, we have information about the main scenario. It's called A Return to Doma, which many people theorized already on Reddit and the official forums. It will feature Gosetsu, which I warned you about spoiler-wise at the start of this video, so no complaints please. It seems they're going back to help Heian with Doma now it's liberated, but you can be sure that won't be the last of their troubles you hear of. In addition to the main scenario, we are getting a new Hildebrand chapter. 4.1 didn't really add anything to Hildebrand, just an introduction, but it did set the scene for this chapter, which has been long in development, so that should be good for those of you who like that, myself included. There's a new beast tribe, the Ananta, which will have dailies and presumably that elephant mount they ride around on frequently as a Bloodsworn reputation reward. There's a couple of nice screenshots here of the beast tribe and the sort of stuff we can expect to see from them. Two brand new dungeons are being added to the game. The first is called Hell's Lid. It looks absolutely awesome with beautiful glowing blue waters surrounding a series of platforms and bridges separating at least this part of the dungeon. We also got a look at one of the bosses inside here, which I desperately want as a mount, to be honest. It's fantastic looking. In addition to this, we are also getting a second dungeon, this time a remake of the Fractal Continuum from Heavensward for a hard mode version. I was surprised to see this, but it does make sense to reuse some of the Heavensward stuff eventually. I wasn't particularly blown away by the original version of this dungeon, so I'm keen to see what this version will be like. And they took a pretty nice screenshot there. New trials will be added to the game, known as the Four Lords. The first of these four got shown off. This is the Jade Stoa, which we only get this glimpse of a tiger for a teaser for now. There will be both a normal and extreme version of this in the patch, so that's going to be absolutely awesome. New raids include Omega Sigmascape and Omega Sigmascape Savage. Finally, the next part of Omega's raid gets told, and I couldn't be any more excited for this. It seems like an absolute age since the last part, and I can't wait to see what they have in store for us both mechanically on the fights and story-wise. The Forbidden Land of Eureka, Anamos, got mentioned and named, with this particularly beautiful piece of art here. It looks to be quite expansive, but they didn't want to talk more about it now. In the next live letter from this one, they're going to go into more detail. So all we got is this teaser for now, which is probably going to work its way to be my desktop background at some point. It's that good. The Feast is getting an update, which is yet another map being added, but the PvP changes are numerous, which we'll look at very shortly. But firstly, the next slide talked about a new glamour system change. The glamour system in the game seems to be getting what they call glamour commodes. This is an in-storage system that lets you use glamour prisms to turn pieces of gear into glamour items, which can no longer be used as gear, but which you can then freely place onto different tabs of glamour sets, which at this point seems to be a separate system as well as the current one, so those confused and indeed worried about the glamour limitations should now be safe in the knowledge they never mentioned once that this system was a replacement, but just an addition to the current system. The biggest change is that all glamour prisms will now be the same after the patch, and there won't be individual different ones for different gear pieces, etc., which is a wonderful quality of life change. They showed off the UI for this new commode storage system, and it says you can store up to 200 glamours at once in this system, and 10 active glamours to switch around at any time. Again, this is not changing anything. You still have the ability to store your glamour in usual places, but this is simply a system to reduce waste of gil and add some storage for frequently used sets. One of the weird things that wasn't explained very well was the ensembles may be used in cities, inns, residential areas and the Ivory Wedding Chapel. Whether this is a direct restriction on either activating ensembles or if it's actually being able to see them outside these areas is a question that someone will need to ask when we next get a Q&A session. Restrictions would suck on visibility outside of those areas, but if it's just on changing them, then that's pretty much fine. I really like the idea of this system, but it has a long way to go until it can be a fully fleshed out replacement for the current one. Remember, this is only the first patch that's including this. Everything gets ironed out eventually, it just takes that first step in the right direction, which I believe this actually is. More quality of life changes next, with the ability to now stack items to 999 instead of only 99. This is going to make crafting and gathering 100 times better in almost every way. They also added an undo sort command in case you accidentally sort your inventory and can't find something and want to revert it, which I probably won't use, but you know, it's there if we want it, and the ability to store items in chocobo saddlebags. That's right, you can now store 70 items in your chocobo itself. The restrictions then are that you cannot craft from this chocobo inventory, and of course you cannot access this inventory during instances or anywhere that you obviously cannot summon the chocobo. Any inventory slots are welcome personally, regardless where they are. I especially like this. You can imagine gathering and having somewhere to put your items that won't clutter your inventory when you're out in the world gathering logs. Already one of the best features in my opinion. Next, we got confirmation we'll now be able to teleport directly to people on our friends list houses. No more plot, ward, etc. juggling. Just port directly to your friend's door and say hello. This is good for practical reasons, immersion, and generally something requested for a long time by both free companies and individuals. Additional plots are also being added to housing in every single area, not just Shirogane, and exterior and interior fixtures are now retained when you remove them automatically to prevent loss. People will obviously be happy for the new plots and better ways to manage their decorations. Changes to plot purchasing system was mentioned, but they haven't gone into detail into it at this time. Submarines were shown off in this lovely image. Subaquatic voyages will be available as of 4.2, and again this will get more information released after the live letter and probably in the next one too. They show off this lovely design for us to get overly hyped for. I'm excited to see what this involves, be it a diadem system or something Eureka related. Nobody knows yet. The Bard Perform skill is getting the previous mentioned update to its UI. It's going to be mapped buttons with an on-screen piano to better play your music. A quite welcomed addition to a complex system that's already in the game, but it's just a shame we can't really do anything other than Final Fantasy XIV music without getting told off. I'm sure it will be fun to play around with either way, and it's also getting some new sounds which they didn't show off today either. A new form of tombstone is being added to currency, say bye to creation and presumably hello to tombstone mendacity, presumably for the new tier of armor and items in 4.2. The main scenario dungeons are being adjusted. This usually means nerfs and to make it easier for players to complete the main scenario content more easily. Not that it needs nerfing at all, but there you go. The new feast map is the Crystal Tower Training Grounds, which is atop the Crystal Tower raid instance. It looks particularly shiny in both day and night modes, and it's golden blue, which you'd probably expect from Crystal Tower. It should add more variety than the current two maps we already have for the feast. The match length of the feast matches is being shortened to 6 minutes from 8. This has various repercussions on both the supply box, which has its spawn times adjusted to compensate this, culling time duration, stack increases, and also the adrenaline gauge will be adjusted to accommodate this as well. Offensive and defensive supplies have been removed from the feast completely, and player respawn is now going to spawn you where you died with temporary invulnerability when you do spawn. This is presumably to attempt to prevent camping in the bases, but, you know, who knows. Medals have changed, which I'm not going to go and read everything out here, but medals collected that exceed these new caps on screen will get thrown onto the ground automatically for others to pick up. Players that are in possession of fewer medals than the initial allotment will be granted the light medal status and receive less damage as a result. which adds a bit of strategy to the game. Teams can now register outside for ranked matches of these games, and top-ranked players can get qualification in tournaments or future rewards. There's a bunch more PvP restrictions and eligibility, etc., which you'll need to go read for yourself here, and there's too much for this to really cover now that I care too much about. The next big thing mentioned was the new duty recorder feature. This will allow you to, upon consent from your party, record the fights you go against. Be it a wipe or a clear, this feature then lets you save up to 3 recordings and watch them back in your inn, allowing you to actually 3-camera and switch perspectives to see what each member of your team did, from your cast bars to where they stood. This could be used to constructively learn mechanics and is a quite nice idea, but you know for a fact people will find a way to abuse this. This seems to be Yoshi's way of adding a system without including parsing, which of course is still currently against terms of service for reasons. And without the countless but very cool looking merchandise updates at the end of this video, that about wraps up the live letter. A key slide is up at the moment which lists the fan festival dates for the next 2 years, so if you want to plan around going to any of these are your dates on screen. I personally already love this patch for quality of life changes. There's obviously a lot more to talk about, and that's why this live letter is actually in 2 parts. I'm looking forward to their next live stream where they talk about these elements more, and much more from 4.2, but for now that's all we have to go on, and hopefully this video summarised that as neatly as possible. Thank you kindly for watching this, and I'll see you all next time.